welcome to the spoilers discussion
for Avengers Endgame.
And I know this is way late. I know I promised it was going to come out Sunday, but sorry, it's a little late. Got exams and life hits a lot of... No, seriously, though, it is exam week for us in college, and we have a lot of stuff going on. It was also really late when we came back and did that movie review, but nonetheless, here is our spoilers discussion. There was a lot of spoilers to talk about. Basically, everything's a spoiler because of the way the marketing was.
So, the people who die in this film are Black Widow.
Let's talk about that. So, Black Widow dies, and that was very shocking. That's definitely one I never saw coming.
Yeah, that whole scene when her and Hawkeye are both fighting to see who's going to sacrifice each other, whoever's going to sacrifice themselves, was a really cool scene. And I figured Hawkeye would do it just because his family was dead and he wanted to do it for them. But then when you think about it, it makes sense because Black Widow does really not have anyone else in the life except the Avengers, and Hawkeye has a family, so it makes more sense for her to. I mean, you don't want to see either of them die, but that was definitely surprising and similar. I think it's the same shot as Gamora laying on the ground. It's just different people.
And I definitely thought it was crazy. At first, when Hawkeye like slammed her down to the ground, I was confused. I was like, trying to think what was happening, but then I figured out, and the way they kept trying to. the way they kept trying to stop each other from jumping off the thing was really cool. And then how Black Widow tackles him and latches onto the wall and they're hanging like that was definitely a really cool and emotional scene. It was definitely very shocking. I like how the different scenes with Black Widow and Hawkeye, and they've already had experiences in the past, so they have so much history together. So I liked how they both went on that mission and how that all played out. And yeah, Hawkeye had a family, so it really did make sense. Black Widow had no one other than, the Avengers. And I realize now Red Skull said who they were the daughter of and son of, and she didn't even know who her father was.
Yeah, so and also, that was also a good point. I definitely think that they kind of, it didn't really lead to it, but the fact that she had so many scenes talking to people, like her and Captain America talked for a little bit, her and Rhodey, they both talked for a while, and so there was definitely a focus on her for the first part of that film until that scene. And that was definitely emotional when they get back from their missions, as they were in different places.
They're all happy.
They're all happy, except they look over at Hawkeye and see that she's not there with him, and definitely just kind of make it clear that the snap would not bring her back, as that was a result of getting one of the stones, so that wouldn't come back. The only other one I can think of right now, besides the 2014 Nebula, which isn't really a death because Nebula, her evolved older self survived, which is the more important one.
Yeah, that was her bad version of herself.
And then the other death I can think of that was definitely kind of surprising to me was Gamora did not really come back. Yes, it's her 2014 self, so she's still good, but she's not as far along as she was at the end of in Infinity War, because she had been through the full events of Guardians of the Galaxy, which hadn't taken place yet, the full events of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and those are two huge moments for her character development.
Yeah.
And
so that's not
for her not to. No, it is, because that one's still gone. So she stayed dead for the most part. But Gamora's in this universe now in the updated timeline, but it's just not the same one, which definitely leaves an interesting window and opportunity for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. The only other death, the two biggest deaths are Iron Man and Thanos.
Well, Thanos dies in the very beginning of this movie.
Well, I'm talking about Thanos at the end.
That's the Thanos that won Infinity War. That is that Thanos. And they cut to that. There was this cool shot of
Thanos picking crops.
Well, yeah, no, but they said there's no one down there other than just no armies, just him, and Nebula says that's enough. And I thought that was such a cool scene, even though he gets killed right away, but he was just so injured.
That scene, I was definitely expecting them to get their butts whipped, just because it's so early in the film, and I'm like, there's no way they're going to come down there and kill him, and they do just go down there and kill him. But then, at first seeing it, I really was kind of frustrated with that opening, because I wanted to see... I was ticked off that they were so easily beat him like that, but then, thinking about it, he had just used basically all of his energy to destroy those Infinity Stones into atoms. I would love to see a scene of that, of him just yelling and ripping him apart.
He was so injured at that point.
Because he was limping up the steps, pulling up and making this really cool looking like stew that he was like throwing like some kind of spice into it.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. No, like, and as much as I'd like to see him there, but even when they killed him, he basically said before they killed him that his destiny was already fulfilled.
Yeah.
Like they can't change anything at that point. He's like, I won, and you can't get over it. And he's like, that's you can't do anything now. So they kill him, and nothing changes, and you go 5 years later.
There's a cool line there with Thor saying, like, I went for the head, which is kind of funny.
Yeah,
is what
before
he
he becomes fat.
And then, let's make sure we talk about Iron Man, so we didn't talk about Iron Man.
Yeah, let's talk about Iron Man.
So Iron Man, at the end,
the biggest death.
Thanos is like, it's impossible to talk about every single thing that happens in this movie, but Thanos is like, he just fought off like every single person to get this Iron Man's new gauntlet that he made that held all the Infinity Stones, and he's about to snap his fingers, but he had just ripped the Power Stone out to destroy a certain character, and that's when Iron Man came. I know, but that's important because when Iron Man came over, he put his hand next to the gauntlet, which was he must have put some sort of magnetic force onto his suit that connected the things to it.
Pulling all of them out of there. But.
So they went onto his hand, and he snapped his fingers and said, "I am Iron Man." After Thanos had just said, "I am inevitable," which he had said before, and snapped his fingers, and nothing happened. And then he said, "I am Iron Man." Snapped his fingers, and that force was so much for him that it just ended up killing him.
Yeah.
Not at first, but just after he had sat down, you could just tell. I don't even think he said a word after that because he was.
Yeah, he didn't. Which honestly, to be fair, obviously they wanted to give him like his fair death, like with people talking to him, but he really would have probably exploded.
His character, that he definitely deserved. It was either him or Captain America, and Captain America got some major scenes before that. So I think they sent both of them off at a very good note. Really, I guess Captain America's kind of another death because.
Yeah,
Captain America doesn't die per se, but he goes back to return all the Infinity Stones, and he's supposed to come back in like 5 seconds, and Hulk's flipping things around. Falcon's like, bring him the heck back! And it's not even Hulk's fault.
He's supposed to put all the Infinity Stones back, but instead they see some old guy sitting by the lake, and it was Captain America. And he lived his life with Peggy Carter. But this is the thing we were talking about. There was Sharon Carter in Civil War. So I'm guessing when he went back, it changed that because he was in a relationship with Sharon Carter. So that's why we were saying,
so I guess,
obviously she had a kid, but who she had it with,
so the snap kind of effed up Sharon Carter's life because she's not even alive anymore. Which, they don't even address that. She could still be alive. But
where she is.
So the beginning is it started out kind of surprising to me. Like, I was expecting honestly, I was expecting maybe a scene back on Titan of Thanos coming back. Something kind of like gradually get in, but it just starts kind of like no black fade. It just starts out with Hawkeye and his family, much like towards where the events of Infinity War are ending. You assume that from what happens, and he's teaching his daughter, Lily, I think, or I don't know her name is. He's teaching her how to shoot an arrow, and she shoots a perfect shot. His wife from La Llorona is cooking food with her 2 sons over there, and all of a sudden, and then he turns around and he's like, "Oh, okay, I'll be right over, honey." And then he turns around, and his wife his daughter's gone, and you see the dust there, and everyone in the theater's like, and then they turns around, and they're both gone,
which is not funny.
Which is pretty crazy to think that out of all the options, his entire family disappeared.
It made sense though for him to completely break down and become crazy.
What you want to talk about him becoming an assassin type thing?
Yeah.
What's his name? I don't even know what his name is.
Ronin. Why don't we just say our favorite scenes we couldn't talk about non-spoilers?
There's 2 scenes in particular that are definitely out there for probably some of my okay. If I'm talking about boss scenes, I'm not talking about funny scenes right now. Just like a boss scene is either I can't really decide between when it's really both involve Captain America and the hammer. When he first gets the hammer,
Mjolnir.
When because Thanos is about to kill Thor, and all of a sudden you see the hammer start to move a little bit, and then it goes straight to Captain America, which I was really hoping they would do in this film. I did not know going in. I was just hoping they did that. And then I think it actually happened again when he said Avengers. He got the hammer to himself again, which is really cool, instead of assemble. I think he got the hammer because he said Avengers assemble, which is a really cool scene. And then when he first got the hammer, some guy in our theater was really pumped up for that one.
Even before that, though, honestly, not even just Captain America getting the hammer. The scene where Fat Thor, which you didn't discuss that, he's just staring at something. It's right after Thanos' ship blows up everything. Right after Hulk snaps, there's so much stuff that happens. and Thor is just staring at something. And he sees Thanos just sitting there with his sword in the ground, and they're like, "What is Thanos? What is he doing?" He's like, "Absolutely nothing." And then Thor gets both of his hammers back, and they both walk up to Thanos. And that fight alone is just the best part about this movie. Yeah, that whole fight between them, because it's just Thanos. He starts talking to him and says, that's when he actually turns evil. He says, "You made me realize that the snap would never work." And so then when he's fighting him with the sword there, that whole fight is just, I don't know if it's better than the final fight, but it's easily one of the best.
It's definitely better. It's just focused on those four characters. There's not much. There's not a million things going on behind them, and you can just focus on the fight itself. And there's so many good moments in there, like when Captain America gets the hammer and like does a million moves. He freaking like spins it around really fast, like a really cool spin move. And he hits Thanos off the ground. His like body falls back, and then he grabs lightning from the sky and puts it right on top, which is a really cool sequence there. And I mean, really, the shot when he said he's staring at Thanos, and he grabs both the things, and it's like lightning forms everywhere, and he said it's a setup. He's like, it might be. He's like, I don't care. He's like, good. And then he's gonna make sure that he's seen it too, and then grabs he almost wants to like make sure he's not hallucinating. He's like, are you seeing this too? He's like, yeah, okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. And then he grabs his freaking hammers. He's about to freaking fight again.
I mean, I knew Fat Thor's a little lackadaisical with his like
he's still powerful.
Self. But yeah, so he had to make sure it was actually him. But that scene though, with Thor or Thanos with the sword fighting Captain America and like breaking his shield down was like really cool, because that's exactly, remember in the flash forward, the nightmare scene, Iron Man's, you see the shield in half. That's exactly what that was like. And that's what makes that fight so great though, is that they're not invincible, because even when Thanos when he punches Thor, like you hear his face like cracking, he's bleeding. And like that's what makes that fight so good. Not just some invincible, stupid character you can't take out.
And then once he stands up, then you see Thanos and his entire army just start to form behind him, which is really cool. You see Ma and the Black Order show up again. There's also some new fighters. Like obviously it's the Jatari army, but then there's like these big gorilla-looking things that are kind of cool. And it looks like it's just Captain America versus all. At first I was like, are they gonna have him like charge on every single thing? And then like that's when things start to like show up behind him, but then it's kind of a cool moment where like you hear the portals start to open up from Doctor Strange, and the first group that walked out, I'll admit I was not too excited at first. I'm just gonna make a little comment on that. I like Black Panther's character a lot, but he needs to start being by himself in shots. Like now when Black Panther comes out of things, he always has to have his like bodyguards next to him. I think Black Panther can handle himself on his own. And
he's the man now.
I just think that he should be by himself more, and not always, because when he came out, I mean, yeah, it's fine. Like everyone showed up, so it was fine that they were next to him. But he needs to start being by himself in these fights, to where when I think of Black Panther, I don't think of him and his army. I think of just Black Panther, just like Captain America. I think of just Captain America, just Iron Man, just Thor.
And do you realize, like we were just saying earlier, Black Panther, his little sister Shuri, who could not fight Killmonger for 2 seconds, is about to go into battle. You're gonna let your little sister go into battle with you?
Maybe eventually she'll have a moment where like she like starts to fight better and have more than just the little boo blasters.
She has no armor.
No, she has nothing. She just has the boo blasters blasting like things that like don't even do anything. She should not be in fights like this. I mean, I understand everyone was coming back, and people love her character, which obviously I know you guys. A lot of people love her character. I don't know why, but they love her character. And, like, I was fine with that, and they didn't really focus on her at all, so I let it go. But, see, when you think of Thor, here's the example. He's the leader of Asgard, but when he's walking around, is there two, like, assistants next to him? No. He's by him because he's able to hold himself on his own.
Then, basically, everyone starts coming out. The Asgardians, the Wakandans, the Sanctum people, and everyone starts coming out. Pepper Potts, Wasp, Doctor Strange. Everyone.
The Pepper Potts one was a huge spoiler there. Like that's the first thing you've ever seen her do anything besides the lava thing in Iron Man 3.
Which I don't know why she didn't use that.
She came out in an awesome suit. I really like that scene. I really like the scene where her and Iron Man are fighting like next to each other. That's definitely an earned scene.
Yeah. Because I mean, and like how they all collide, and then Giant Man punches one of the things, and
Giant Man came out, punched the thing, stepped on one of the Black Order guys.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Just in that moment, like all the Asgardians guys came in. Valkyrie came out on her, like Pegasus. Oh yeah, I also liked how people were coming back from where they were at the snap of Infinity
Yeah.
War. Like when Star-Lord, Drax, Mantis, Spider-Man, and I guess Doctor Strange is already there. When they came out, you could see Titan in the background, which is where they were which is where they lost in Infinity War, which is really cool to see. Like that's where they were coming from, and that made sense.
That was
Oh,
it.
Scarlet Witch.
Yeah,
And,
Scarlet
so
Witch,
during the
sure
fight,
is.
Thanos fights. Doesn't really fight
Everyone.
Black Panther. The only thing that he ever interacts with Black Panther in that fight is like Black Panther's running with the gauntlet, which they're trying to keep this gauntlet away from Thanos, and like Hawkeye originally starts with it and gets out of there, gives it to Spider-Man, who is on the back of Pegasus with Valkyrie,
Yeah.
and Black Panther's running with it, and Ma's like getting like rocks to go around him where he's like going in the air. But then before that even happens, Thanos throws this like boomerang axe at him and knocks it out of his hand. And that's really the only interaction between Black Panther and Thanos. They never actually fought. So Scarlet Witch shows up, which is a really cool scene. Thanos is actually booking it to get to the gauntlet. And all of a sudden, Scarlet Witch lands right there in an awesome scene. And then he says, it's a great line where he's like, you took everything from me, or you ruined my life. And Thanos is like, I don't even know who you are.
That's true, though, because that's the past Thanos.
It's like he doesn't know any of these people, probably, except the Avengers who were in 2012, because he did watch that fight. That was a really cool scene. And then Scarlet Witch really starts, Scarlet Witch beats him in this fight, because she throws two buildings at him, kind of, or two, like, rocks at him. And then she, like, picks him off the ground. He's like, rain fire, and he's like, for our troops. First of all, when he said our troops, you really think Thanos is going to give an F about the troops right there? But then he's like getting beat, then they shoot fire down on people, and that's when like, this is when I was like, okay, what's about to happen here? Because they showed everyone start to like fall down kind of thing. And kind of like in Wakanda, before Thor showed up, everyone was like getting overwhelmed by the things. I'm like, oh, here we go. Because a certain someone was not in this fight yet.
Hadn't been in it for a long time.
Yeah, which I was really loving this film. And then all the guns point up at the sky. And I'm like, oh, what could this be? And then Thanos has such a fake reaction when his ship gets destroyed. He's like sad that his ship got destroyed. He could easily portal out of there if he had the freaking Infinity Stones. But
give an F.
So they give him like a fake like sad scene, and then you see Captain Marvel show up with her new haircut and destroys the ship, and everyone in the theater goes insane. Actually, wait. No one clapped at this scene.
Barely, no one clapped the first time. Barely anyone clapped the second time.
You know what? I do want to mention that. We've seen this film 2 times. And the first time, there wasn't much clapping in the entire film for anything. But the second time, there was major applause when Captain America got the hammer. And there might have been clapping. No, there was clapping too when he said Avengers Assemble. As they were charging, everyone was like clapping.
Everyone was going to war with them.
And then there was also, the only time for Captain Marvel I heard a clap was when, I think it was when she showed up. She showed up out of the sky and destroyed the ship, and like I heard like 2 claps, like 2.
But then people were like,
and then they were like, wait a second, no one else clapped, and they stopped because it was like two different people clapped at the same time. They're like, we're the only ones clapping in this theater.
Because everyone else is like.
The one that really surprised me was, here's my comparison: when Captain America shows up in Infinity War, I remember clapped insane for both every time I saw it almost.
Yeah.
But then this time, the beginning of the movie, which this is kind of the most obvious spoiler. Iron Man's about to die because they're running out of oxygen in the ship, and he's going to sleep, like dying. And you see, there's like this light, and I'm like, I had no idea what this was, and I was like, what the F? And then you see her, and she kind of like stands there and like, or floats there in front of the ship.
CGI
It was you could hear a pin drop at that scene, like not even like people
Nobody
were so
cares.
Nobody cared, and people were so in shock that she was in this film already that like I'm telling you, did anyone clap either time? Not once.
Nobody cares.
We're not going to Hollywood press screenings with like the elitists of the world. We're going to just a normal movie theater in our area. I'm not saying this is like a gauge to like show every single person in the country, but both times we saw this movie, there's a decent sized crowd, and we heard 2 single claps for Captain Marvel. Then her fight with Thanos is kind of short lived. She comes in, hits him in the back of the knee, which this is a purported note that he had been fighting things like all day, like fighting
flipping.
The fight just between Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America alone is probably not to freaking tire someone out. So she comes in, he's just trying to get the gauntlet on. He grabs her by the arm, like flings her out of there like a piece of like a sack of potatoes, and then she comes back in, and she's holding his hand up. He like headbutts her, and this is the little moment where like that's where someone caught it, I think. He headbutts her. and like doesn't do anything. And she like
And
is
so
like
cool,
invincible.
CGI form. And
Yeah,
is
you see
invincible.
her haircut, face looking back up at her. Thanos is like, that's it, F this. And he grabs the Power Stone in her face. And he grabs it and punches her into an, like,
Out of
atoms.
the movie.
Like, literally into atoms. Like, if you watch this in slow motion, it's like a little, like, laser go from where he punched her.
She gets turned into an asteroid. You see the punch, she goes out of the movie, and you don't see her until the funeral the next day.
You don't.
She gets punched out of
She
the
doesn't
movie.
say a dang word the rest of the film. The time travel stuff I really enjoyed. I like seeing the callbacks to the previous movies. Like, they go back to Guardians of the Galaxy. They go back to, surprisingly, they go back to Thor: The Dark World. Which is kind of a surprise. And then they also go back to Avengers. So there's some really cool scenes. You know, talk about the scene where they're behind the pose.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So it goes to when Loki's like, "If it's all the same to you, I'll have that drink now," and it's where they all pose. And then you actually, the new Iron Man sees them, like, what happens after, and Iron Man's like, "What are you all standing around for?" And like, "Why are we posing?" And they just move. It was really interesting to see how they acted, like the what do you call it? The like behind the scenes of the scenes that we saw.
I was gonna say, like, for that whole sequence of being in Avengers, it's almost like getting a bonus extra scene in the movie, because basically, or like being like a fly on the wall type thing, where like you get to see a whole sequence after, like, you think Avengers is over, like when you watch Avengers you can't see anything else, so you're basically getting to see extended footage of Avengers, because after they do this, they get in the elevator, they tell Hulk he can't get on the elevator, which is a really cool, funny scene, where then he goes down the stairs. And he kind of F's up their plan because he opens the door so fast and that knocks Iron Man back.
No, that is the thing, though. Yeah, because there's certain shots like in Avengers where they pose and the scene ends, and it is interesting. How would they continue from there, and how they continue is really funny.
And also, it's just the fact that they show shots from the previous movies, like that. They show the circle shot of Avengers, which is like the most iconic shot in the universe.
Oh yeah.
And then you also get to see Hulk fighting.
A little extra,
which is extra footage of the actual Hulk. That's another big spoiler. Hulk is not Hulk in this film.
That was nice since he's not in this movie.
Because they moved to Professor Hulk. That's another whole storyline there.
Yeah, but I just wanted to mention how, because you see scenes of Thanos in the past. You see him portal in and walking with the sword. He's like wiping blood off, talking about Ronin, and just like those scenes were like the best because Thanos is easily the best villain, and just him on screen is just so enjoyable to watch and how interesting he is. But seeing like the behind the scenes of Thanos walking through, like wiping off the blade, saying Ronin's mind, he's like his judgment is clowned by, and like just hearing him talking about Ronin behind the scenes, I'd love to see a movie of just Thanos going planet to planet.
Similar to that, they showed Guardians of the Galaxy, Star-Lord just dancing. I like how it was playing the music, then it just cut away to what was actually going on. He's like kicking those little things around.
And he's knocked out.
We already talked about Black Widow and Hawkeye, and also
knockdown.
Yeah, I just wanted this War Machine just freaking knocks it out like so easily. Then also, I thought the humor was just great in this film for the entire thing. Really, I liked. There was actually some really obviously the biggest one was the fat Thor. Thor got drunk and just kind of lost it after the fight, and I loved the scene when they go to like bring the team back together, do this mission to go back in time for the time traveling machine. And they go in and they're like, I was expecting him to be like this, like the same shape, but just like kind of going insane. But then you see this like huge guy say, "Are you guys here for the cable?" or something like that. And then
I know he is just massive.
And that's another one. He's sitting there playing video games with Korg and Meek.
Fortnite. He's literally playing Fortnite with Korg and Meek.
You get to see Meek on screen eating pizza with Korg also playing video games. That every single thing with Thor was just hilarious. Like his burping during random scenes, his sunglasses, and sitting in the corner like he's dead. Or
he says yes with a burp in that one.
No,
it's like yes, and like that's what literally said. Yeah, then him sitting in the chair like this and with his sunglasses, and they all need like they're trying to fix the universe, and they think like, he's like dead or asleep.
Half the universe is dead, and he's like dead over there, and then. There's a scene where they're talking about the old Infinity Stones, and his moment. I wish they would have gone longer with that scene where like each person told a story about their Infinity Stone that they were around.
Yeah.
Because Thor's was hilarious. He's like telling a story about and my father kept it hidden from the Dark Elves. Like.
I know that. That's what I agreed with Thor. He's obviously a really good actor, and I think he's great in the serious scenes. But he's honestly better with the comedic scenes. That's why when they went in that direction, it was probably better than him even being serious.
Yeah.
Because like remember the Thor and Daryl short film, Like, that's obviously, everyone knows about that. How, like, great he was in that, riding the bike through the freaking little apartment. Like, that's definitely why they went with that, because
you can tell, because when Thor started, they went too kind of dark with him almost, and then they made sure to, like, they totally switched it up and made him, like, do what he was great at, which is, he's still good at serious scenes, but, like, also just being really funny. And then Rocket slaps him in one scene. And honestly, my most funny scene of the movie, besides the just moments here and there with Thor just doing funny stuff. The most funny scene, complete scene in my opinion, was when Thor, after he talks to Valkyrie and says, "You're the new queen of Asgard," even though there's like 10 Asgardians.
Like 10
he gets on this ship with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and he walks on, and him and Chris Pratt, those two just have such a great chemistry. Like, that scene in Infinity War still, I think, is probably the funniest scene in that movie, when they're like arguing on the ship.
And Thor almost freaking collapses the whole ship.
So then he gets on there and he walks straight up to the main screen and slides the thing over, and Star was like, "Hey, now I am the captain on this ship." He's like, "Oh, of course you are." And then he does it again, and then he says, like, "I don't think you're understand that I'm the king, or that I'm the captain of the ship." And then Drax says, "You should battle for the right to be captain."
For leadership.
Which obviously Thor could destroy Star-Lord easily.
Oh,
so he's like, "There's no," and then Thor's like, "There's no reason to be no one's be knifing anyone today," and then basically like a great moment at the end of that was when he said, like, "We all know who's in charge," and then those two are right there. We all know who's in charge, and then Star-Lord's like, "It's me," right? And then Thor's face, like, he says yes, and then you see how his face gets like serious at the end. He's like not being serious. Just didn't talk about the Nebula stuff with.
Yeah, I mean, Nebula was good. I loved the return of the Ancient One.
Yeah, the Ancient One was another one.
That was really interesting. Obviously, I've already said I've liked her character more in Doctor Strange than actual Doctor Strange in that movie. And I thought that was a great appearance, knocking the soul out of Hulk. Yeah, she was fighting, which is really weird.
So that means in Avengers, she's actually fighting somewhere.
Yeah, that's so weird, because...
Is that in New York?
Yeah, that was in New York.
So that means she's fighting in Avengers.
There's a lot of different sanctums, but, she was fighting... But she was always saying how she had to protect the mystical threats.
That's not really
mystical. Which is very weird. No, it's not, which is why that was interesting. But nonetheless, it was really awesome to see her back in these movies again.
And it's kind of cool to see Thanos just doing more of his stuff with the two daughters, with Gamora. That was kind of cool to see when Nebula's like, "I'm not the only one here searching, or we're not the only ones. He's not the only one here searching for this stone." And you see her fighting just some random race, and Gamora saves her, and you can see that relationship of why they hate each other. Or why she hates her.
Which is so much more in-depth and integral to the plot than some flying, floaty CGI.
No. Nebula is one of the most important characters of this film, whether it's indirect or not indirect, or not direct, or indirect or direct, because, her, not only just playing a huge role, having two versions of herself, but, the fact that she's able, her mind connecting to the mind in 2014...
That was so integral.
If that didn't happen, Thanos wouldn't even have known what was going on.
There wasn't a movie.
That was kind of a spoiler too. Iron Man was able to live out his life. That's kind of why he did die, but he was able to live 5 years with his wife, have a daughter, kind of live a life.
Yeah, obviously, other than the Hulk, this is gonna be the last thing. The Hulk was obviously not the Hulk in this movie. I thought there was a lot of funny scenes, and I still liked Professor Hulk in this movie.
Yeah, I thought it was funny.
But it's just not the Hulk. And they didn't get a rematch with Thanos, which that's why I really didn't even bring it up in the review, because there's so many things to cover there's so much to cover in this movie that I'm not going to get on for one thing like that. But it was definitely a disappointment why Hulk wasn't actually in this movie. But I liked, the scene with Hulk at that bar and no one wants to take a picture with Ant-Man, and he's like, "Take the gosh darn phone."
Yeah, that was a good scene.
Yeah, I mean, the Hulk, I still liked him in this movie, but hopefully he comes back in some other form.
Ant-Man, when he was eating a taco outside, and the ship totally just blew his taco out of his hand just so randomly. I mean, that scene, the fact that a rat is the reason Ant-Man came back has kind of surprised me. I was expecting... that's pretty lucky for that to happen.
I saw in the comments, the real hero of this movie is the rat.
I mean, if the rat didn't come back, they would never thought about time travel.
And I'm just going to finish this off. Thanos in this movie, it just staples, even the little he's in it, just staples why he's the best villain. I mean, I really hope they do some backstory movie, because now he really is gone. I guess we really talk about that. He disappears.
He disappears, but you never know. Now with time travel, anything can happen now. It's if they want to bring him back, they can bring him back. Yeah, that was our spoiler discussion of Avengers Endgame. Really love this movie. It's a 10 out of 10 for both of us. And it's definitely sad to see some of our favorite heroes go.
Iron
But
Man and Captain America, basically both.
they built this-
gone,
hey.
boys.
They built Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and Black Widow, Hawkeye, and Hulk. Built this thing from the ground up, and let's just see how long it takes before it comes crumbling down to the ground.
No matter what happens, we'll always have this.
Yeah, and
Always have this.
that's why I love this film, because they put a cap on this thing, and we're still gonna keep watching. I'm excited for Guardians 3. I'm excited for Thor 4 with Valkyrie
Black Widow
leading.
prequel movie. I'm excited for that.
I'm excited for. I mean, Spider-Man. I'm fine with it. I'm not pumped for it, but I mean, I don't dislike him. Definitely enjoy this movie, and let us know down in the comments if we left anything out. What did you guys think about it?
Sorry this was late. You know, like I said, we got a lot of stuff going. I'm not trying to make excuses, but we do have. This is literally like the last week of college for us, so that's why it's a lot of craziness. But
Yeah, but be ready for some talking about our top 10 movies of the MCU. We're gonna try to rank those now that we've seen Endgame twice, and also be on the lookout for a series leading up to Godzilla: King of the Monsters, as we still have to review Godzilla and Kong Skull Island before that movie comes out, which is it's almost already a month away.
And look out for the Mega Kaiju vs. King Ghidorah video, which we're gonna freaking finally hopefully make.
Yeah, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.